Welcome to Before the BFP, the part of the fertility journey we don't talk about enough. The waiting, the hoping, the spiraling, the appointments, the 2-week wait, the quiet heartbreak, and the tiny wins that still feel huge. I'm Hafsa, and each week you'll hear real stories from people trying to conceive, navigating PCOS, IUI, IVF, loss, secondary infertility, and everything in between. No toxic positivity, no perfect endings required, just honest stories that make you feel less alone. If you're in the thick of it right now, the space is for you. Let's get into today's episode. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Before the BFP. I'm your host, Hafsa, and today we have Priyanka. Hi, Priyanka. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Hafsa. Thank you so much for having me. Just a little introduction. My name is Priyanka. I currently live in Virginia with my husband and our two toddlers and our dog. I feel like the phrase "working mom" really applies to my life right now because when I'm not working, I'm a physician. I am momming with my toddlers and our dog, so my days are very full and very busy. In terms of our support system, we have both sets of grandparents that live in the States, but not in our state, but they are very close by. So we see them often. And then we have I have a very big like Indian community from back home, as well as a community from college and the different stages of my training. So I've kind of picked up friends along the way. So I'd say we do have a very decent size support system, and it's been nice. In terms of, I guess, when our journey started, we actually struggled with secondary infertility. And so we actually had no trouble getting pregnant with our firstborn, and it happened like on the first month. And so the world of infertility wasn't even something that was on my mind or something I thought would affect me. I'd heard about it and I knew people that it would affected, but really it was something I had no idea about. Things really started to become an issue when we were ready to start trying for our second child. And so I naively went into the process being like, okay, like we'll try, we'll probably get pregnant quickly and, let's have our second one. And so we got pregnant very quickly after I was nursing. And so as soon as I weaned, we got pregnant. But this time, the pregnancy felt a little bit different. Like I had a nagging feeling that something was off because I had no symptoms. Like I had no nausea, no fatigue, like no soreness, like nothing. And I think again, I just chalked it up to I probably just got lucky because the thought that there could be something wrong wasn't even on my radar. And the day of our confirmatory appointment. I go in with my husband, and this was actually, poor guy, this was his first time coming to one of these because our son was born during COVID. He didn't even get, yeah, he didn't even get to experience it. So I do feel bad because this whole process like traumatized him, because this was his first experience with all of this. Anyway, when they ask me how I'm doing, I casually put in like, oh, like I don't have any symptoms, but maybe I just got lucky again. And then what really kind of is a moment I will probably never forget is when the OB put the probe inside to look for the fetus. I kind of realized something was off. I remember kind of like the minutes just like ticking by, and she kept, moving the probe around and like putting it in deeper and like shifting it and trying to scan like every corner of my uterus looking for something. And I remember looking kind of over at my husband, and he had this like really like tense quiet face on, and was like also very focused on what she was doing. She finally took out the probe and she's like, I don't see anything. She's like, let me try a different probe. But again, another 5 minutes went by. It was like pin drop silence and still nothing. So she finally sat me up and said, I'm sorry, but I don't see a fetus. And she stepped out for a bit. I think she wanted to give us space to kind of process, but we were both just like stunned. It was, again, like something that neither of us was expecting. So I think we just sat there in silence. Like we didn't say anything to each other, just kind of in shock. And so finally she came back. She came back in trying to talk about the next steps. And so she talked about like repeating labs, like getting another ultrasound, next steps if this was a miscarriage. And we were still kind of in shock. I don't think I processed like there wasn't a fetus in there. And I remember my husband was asking, like, is there any chance that this could still be a normal, healthy pregnancy? And she just said, like, nothing about that ultrasound was normal. And it was just like those words just kind of like hit me. And
How
yeah,
many weeks were you at this point?
I was 10 weeks. So I went in
Oh,
like
wow. Okay.
normal. Yeah. And so, and I was
Yeah.
pretty regular. So something was definitely going on. Like I hadn't gotten a cycle for 10 weeks. So I think, yeah. So she was like, let's do some more workup because, I think since you haven't had a cycle in a long time and you normally do, there's probably something going on.
So, sorry, just to confirm, you had a positive pregnancy test. Did they do betas before your?
No, because,
No. That's
yeah,
what I hate about normal like clinics.
yeah,
Like in the infertility clinics will always do betas and stuff. So like
yeah.
you kind of have some idea what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think because like there was no reason to think this was anything but a normal pregnancy. Like I just called at like the 6 week mark and they said, okay, come in, at next available, which was 10 weeks. And then after that, then they did do an HCG level. Like so then they did do a beta level. But I think while we were waiting for our labs to come back, I made the mistake of looking at my OB's chart to see like exactly what she wrote because she didn't really give us any indication what she thought was happening. She just said this isn't normal and kind of left it at that. And in her like description of the ultrasound, she wrote the phrase there was a snowstorm appearance in the ultrasound, which in the medical world it's like a trigger word for a condition known as a molar pregnancy, which is actually a cancerous growth that can happen in the uterus, like when a sperm and an egg fertilize, but they don't actually turn into a fetus. It can sometimes turn into like a type of a cancerous growth.
Wow.
Yeah, so sometimes it's more benign, but sometimes it's not, and you end up going through like normal cancer treatments like chemo and radiation. And so I think this is probably where like I hit my rock bottom because I started to spiral. I obviously went down like worst case scenario route, and I remember thinking like, how am I going to work and have be a mom and go to like chemotherapy treatments like every week? Like I'm going to have to quit my job. Like maybe my parents have to move in with us. Like I just like kind of like went like 0 to 100, and just it consumed me for those days while we were waiting for the beta. And just kind of seeing the trajectory of my life shift from what I thought was going to happen, like literally earlier that day, to where I thought my life was going to go. It was a very tough and like stressful moment or period for me. Luckily, and it's like kind of an ironic statement, but luckily, once the labs came back, we realized it was a miscarriage and not a molar. And I think, I don't know too many people that feel relief at knowing that they had a miscarriage, but in that moment, I truly was like, I'm so glad it's quote just a miscarriage, cancerous, like not a cancerous growth. But after that, things went pretty quickly. Like my OB, they weren't very communicative during this time. I think it was the holidays, and so I ended up actually miscarrying like naturally at home on Christmas Eve. It was, it was not what I was expecting, but in some ways I felt a little like empowered that my body could like take care of this on its own. And there was something nice about that. And um, we were kind of told that, okay, 20% of healthy couples will have miscarriages and to, start trying again once your cycles return. So during this time, we tried, every month for like 4 to 5 months. Each month I would kind of get a positive pregnancy test, like at the 4 week mark. And then, like, within a couple of days, I'd start my cycle and kind of having these like chemical pregnancies essentially, where like something was happening, but it wasn't sticking. And I remember just being so stressed because I, like, in my head had told myself, yeah, I probably just had a one off miscarriage and, this will probably be okay. Cause, my first pregnancy was normal and healthy and happened so easily. Like, how could this not happen again so easily? And so finally, after like 4 to 5 months of just this like roller coaster of emotions, I ultimately made the decision to go to a fertility clinic to get evaluated.
At any point during these 4 to 5 months, did someone think like, hey, let's check your betas and your progesterone and see if your progesterone's okay?
No. So, yeah, that's actually a good point. No. And I had asked my OB to check my progesterone during my miscarriage because I was like, oh, maybe that was off. But she didn't think it was necessary. So, she didn't, we didn't ever get that checked.
That's crazy because one of the number one causes of a chemical pregnancy is your progesterone dipping like after you get your positive, and that's why you start miscarrying. And like, I'm very
Yeah. Well, It's interesting you say that because when I went to my fertility clinic, they drew labs and they were like, I think I was already like in a cycle. So they said, why don't you take baby aspirin and progesterone for this site, like intravaginal progesterone for this cycle? And if it doesn't work, then we will do like ultrasound with like saline, like looking at like the anatomy of your uterus and stuff. And actually, that time I got pregnant and I stayed pregnant. And I still wasn't sure if that's really what tipped me over to like having a successful pregnancy, but talking to you, like maybe it was. Like I was like, maybe it's a coincidence, but either way, that's what worked for me. But yeah, and now we have a very rambunctious, strong-willed toddler from all of that.
When you first got in with a fertility clinic, did they do like a workup or?
Yeah, so because I think when I got in, I was like already like middle of my cycle, and I think we had even like tried during that cycle. She just got some like screening, like checking my thyroid and like basic labs that aren't affected by like that are not like hormonally driven. And then she said like if you have a period, if you do menstruate this cycle, then we can do like a more extensive like physical workup. And then I think my husband was waiting to get his like testing done when I got the positive, and then I was able to stay pregnant that time. So we just ended up not doing the rest of the workup.
Yeah. I'm always shocked at the subpar quality of some clinics.
Yes, I think I was too, and not to say that physicians should get better treatment, but she knew my OB knew I was a physician, and she kind of said, "Well, maybe you miscalculated your dates," and I was like, "No, like I was like keeping track of things, like I'm a reliable historian, like I." And she kind of kept saying like, "Oh, well, maybe you like miscalculated, and maybe you are pregnant, but you're like a lot earlier." And I think yeah, I just didn't listen. And so I ended up switching to an OB who was actually a male who actually has been so much more receptive and understanding.
Yeah, that is actually very interesting. I know like some men get a bad rap
Hmm.
for like being bad doctors and not listening, but I've experienced the opposite. I feel like women don't listen to me.
Yeah. And someone once said like for OBs, like maybe like because like as a female, she's been through, you know, like menstruation, pregnancy, like she doesn't view it as like so like different or unique. But as a male, like as someone who doesn't go through it, you almost have to treat it so like sacred because you don't personally know what it's like. So, but yeah, I have loved my new OB. He's been wonderful.
Yeah, when I was giving birth to my son, I was in labor for like 25 hours and they were like, okay, now you're 9 centimeters dilated or 10 centimeters dilated. And we're gonna call the doctor. And the doctor comes in and she's like, I have 15 minutes before my next C-section. Can you push him out in 15 minutes?
Oh my
And I was
God.
like, this is
What?
my first baby. I have no idea what I'm doing. Absolutely none. And it was an induction. So I was, yeah.
And that's like the last thing you want to hear. Like, okay, well, now I'm on a time crunch for something I
Yeah.
have no control over.
Yeah. So I was like, no, I was shocked. I think my face actually looked like this.
Yeah.
And then she was like, okay, well, I'll come back after my C-section. She never came back.
Oh my God. So who came back?
So she just waited until the next doctor came on shift and he came and he was the nicest man ever. Like my whole like induction time, I was scared that I wouldn't give birth in time to get the girl.
Hmm.
And I guess I got so lucky that
Yeah.
I did not get the girl because she was not very nice. And he was just the nicest doctor. His own wife had given birth like what I think like a month ago.
Hmm.
So he was just very kind and very supportive,
Understanding. Yeah.
understanding. Yeah.
Yeah. I had the same experience. I really like my OB.
Yeah. And going back to just progesterone, for listeners, progesterone is one of the most common causes of a miscarriage because sometimes it's hard to keep it up. And if you're experiencing that your pregnancies aren't sticking and your doctors aren't listening to you, beg them, push them, force them to check your progesterone day 21. I think it is. I think it's day 21. Correct me if I'm wrong, Bianca, if you know.
I don't know that. Yeah, I'm not sure. But I do know checking it at some point during your cycle is important.
Yeah. It'll tell you, like, if because HCG tells you you're pregnant, progesterone will tell you if it sticks. When I had my son, I got pregnant with him, 10 DPO, I got a positive pregnancy test.
Hmm.
And then on like 3 days later, I started spotting in the bathroom. And I freaked out and I called my fertility clinic, but it was a Sunday. So I was like, no one's going to respond to me. Like, this is over. And they immediately replied and they were like, you have to get on progesterone right now. We're sending the prescription and we're going to do all your blood work. And they did my blood work and it showed that my progesterone had like dropped dramatically in 3 days.
Wow. And so once you started the progesterone, did your spotting go away?
It did. It
Okay.
stopped like in 2 days.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I think
So,
yeah, I think what's hard is like the nature of using it because I forget if it was like two or three. It's like multiple times a day and it's like intravaginal. At least mine, or was yours like a PIO shot? The,
no, it was
the
intravaginal.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that I can't say I was very good about taking all the doses every day, but it did help.
I think I was supposed to take two. So what I did was I would keep it in my bed
Hmm.
and I would just reach over, grab one, and do it before I got out of bed. And every night I'd do it before I went to sleep because that
Okay.
was the only way I'd remember to do it. And it was
Okay.
kind of gross, but I kept wipes with me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, whatever works.
yeah, because I'm not very good at taking medicine of any sort. But I was like, I am not like this cannot be our story.
Yes.
I was
Yeah.
very, I was very like heartbroken at the even possibility of it. So I can't imagine going through it four times.
I had one like 10-week miscarriage and then the chemicals I had like three.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awful. Like, I'm so sorry that the doctors don't listen.
Yeah. Um, no, they didn't. But yeah, we're past that. So I try not to like think about it because I do get up like I'm frustrated because I'm sure other patients have gone through similar experiences if I have. So that's unfortunate.
Going back to the time when you were going through these miscarriages, what did you reach out to anyone for advice? Were there any like Facebook groups, any books you read, anything that like helped you through your journey?
I'm not proud to say it, but I feel like I was on Reddit a lot, which, I think it was, I think what I'm trying to say is it was nice to have like a community. And I think that's why this podcast is actually really helpful because hearing like other people's stories and like getting like hope from their stories was really nice. Obviously, I had a couple friends that had struggled with fertility and, talking to them was really helpful and therapeutic. But yes, Reddit was another source for me.
I have just discovered Reddit, and
Mhm.
Reddit is kind of confusing to me.
It's kind of a black hole. I don't know that I think it's like, it's not I think there's like pros and cons to it, but you can really get sucked in. So,
Oh yeah, I've been sucked into this whirlpool, but like my first time using it, I immediately got banned from a group. I like used the word. I was like, "Hey, I have a new podcast, BFP. Does it before the BFP? Does anyone want to like tell their story?" And immediately they banned me. They're like, "No, no, our pain is not for yourself, like not for you to make money." And I was like, "I'm not making money."
oh no, I'm so sorry.
And I was like, "Okay, I think I'm done with Reddit." And then my brothers were like, "No, no, it's okay. That's how Reddit is."
Yeah, they're very like dramatic maybe. Yeah, so I've never I'm just a lurker. I just like lurk and read, but that's yeah, I could see that happening. They're very like dramatic sometimes in some of these Reddit posts.
Yeah, so I don't post anymore.
Yeah.
I just lurk
Yeah,
too.
I just lurk.
Or I upvote. Or like I guess I don't
Yeah.
know what it's called. I'm
Yes.
like, yay, her story, yay.
Yeah. Yeah, yay,
Yeah, I read
support.
lots of stories now.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still do sometimes.
How do you feel um your community helped you during everything you went through?
So I actually would say I had like a pretty positive experience with like our immediate family. I had known my mom had a miscarriage, but again, like before I went through it, I don't know. I don't even know what I thought she went through. I think I just thought it was like a blip in the history of her life. But after that, I did talk to her more about it. And then just like, kind of seeing like her success story and like, she then went on to have three healthy children. And it was actually really nice and like kind of a way to connect. And I'll be honest, I was really open with like, I have a brother and a sister. I was very open with them about my miscarriage and like what I was going through, even like when I was having the miscarriage, like they knew. And I kind of did that because I like didn't want to fall into this typical South Asian stigma that we have where like you can't talk about these things. So I was actually pretty open with my side of the family and they were really receptive.
Yeah. That's amazing. I'm really glad you had that positive experience.
Yeah, yeah,
I will say I think our generation is much better than generations that come before.
yeah. Yeah. I think it's twofold. Like I think me like taking the initiative to just tell them, like I think they were a little shocked that I was sharing it all, but I think it was also like to their credit, I think they received it well and like didn't no one told me like don't talk about this, like that's we don't want to hear it. Like they were like, oh wow, like they actually asked more questions and were like I don't want to say curious, but like we're like, curious for like my sake, I guess, like making sure I was
Yeah.
doing okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I have 4 brothers,
Hmm.
so I would tell them about it, and they'd be okay with, like, hearing about it, and my mom would be like, "What are you doing? Why are you telling them stuff like this?" I'm like, "Mom, we're not talking about sex over here. Calm
Yeah,
down."
yeah, and like you never know, like maybe they'll have a part, knock on wood, but they might experience something like that, and it's good to like have some experience or like understanding going into it.
Yeah, so actually both of my 2 of my brothers are married. My older brother was him and his wife were going through infertility at the same time I was,
Okay.
and we actually had our babies at the same in the same week.
Oh my God, that's so special. That's so nice.
Yes.
So he
And then
probably
my
knew exactly. He probably like had a way more like more understanding than like most men might about
Yeah.
what you were going through.
Yeah, well, they were going through infertility for like 7 years, and
Okay.
I didn't know that I was infertile. I just thought like I got lucky and never got pregnant because, in the
Yeah.
beginning you're like, let's not get
Get pregnant.
pregnant, and then when you want to get pregnant, it's like, whoa, like this is hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So they were going through it for like 7 years, and then my little brother who's now pregnant, I think they've been going through infertility for a couple of years as well. And it's having been through it, it feels good to be able to talk to them and help them process. I mean, they're still in the middle of it. Like you can give advice, but it's not very helpful. But like you can commiserate, I guess
Yeah.
is the better word.
Yeah, or give them like hope, maybe like seeing like stories that come end up. Because sometimes I feel like even if your story doesn't look like someone else's, like just having hope, I think got me out of like some dark days. Like knowing like maybe one day I can get pregnant. Like just that thought was very hopeful.
In terms of secondary infertility, how did it feel? Like I know you mentioned that infertility never even crossed your mind just because you got pregnant so easily with your first. Like how did it feel watching your firstborn and thinking like I want another one, but I already have one? Do you know what I'm trying to ask?
Yeah, yeah. And I think so something that someone said was like, well, at least you have one. And I like totally get where that sentiment is coming from because like yes, I was lucky that despite all of the struggles that I was going through that I still had a baby to come home to and play with. But it didn't change like I think like the pain of losing another baby and I can't explain why, but I think when you get pregnant, at least so I think with my issue, it's not that I couldn't get pregnant, is that I couldn't stay pregnant. And so each time I had a positive pregnancy test, like you basically like you envision your like life. And I don't know like why I do it or why people do it, but like within like a few hours, like you're imagining like we'll have a new baby in September and then like we're for Christmas, like we'll have a baby, like maybe we have to like, you just start planning. And then I think when that gets taken away and it gets taken away so abruptly, it still hurts even though like you do have a baby. I think just knowing like what your life could have been like and something that you imagine, like I was imagining my son as like a big brother and multiple times that got taken away. I think it still hurts. And the other part that I think was hard was when I was in like the dark spot of like the initial miscarriage. I remember like just feeling so cut off from like my son and my husband. Like I was just like wrapped up in my health issues and Googling stuff and like talking to like some of my OB friends, like, okay, what could this mean? Like what are my options? And in hindsight, I do feel guilty. Like I feel like I just wasn't present in those couple weeks to months. But when I was able to kind of like, I guess like step away, like he was like a really big source of joy for me. So like it was nice to have him, but I feel like sometimes it was hard because I felt like I needed to be with him and I just mentally couldn't give him like my attention at that time.
Yeah, that is so hard. Something that you just mentioned. So when you experienced your 10-week miscarriage, that was a whole 10 weeks of imagining a
Hmm.
future. Like you're almost through your first trimester. How did that, like you probably had so much planned. How did that feel? Just
Yeah.
having that all just
It was,
gone.
I think like I went through like the stages of, like grief. Like I was just in denial because like how like what like how could this happen? Like I literally had a positive pregnancy test and I've had nothing happened. Like it's not like I started spotting or bleeding or like nothing happened that would indicate there was something wrong outside of not having any symptoms. I think it was tough. It was really tough to like, swallow. And I think I think I still remember like that baby would have been born in July of 23. So like it's a time that I still do like whenever that date rolls around. I because I remember we thinking like, oh, like we'll have like a summer baby, and I still every time we're in July, I'm like, oh, we would have maybe had another child at this point, with that baby.
That is so hard. And then when you were going through the rest, like the subsequent miscarriages that you had, were you more nervous? Like, did you think that? So you had the 10-week miscarriage, and then when you had your next positive pregnancy test, did you think like this isn't going to happen again, or what was? Walk us through your mindset.
Yeah, I think I started off optimistic because I was still naive and I was like, 20% of pregnancies end in miscarriage, but like there are still, a lot of couples that experience that have a healthy, normal pregnancy after. Plus, Reddit told me that I saw a lot of posts about women who had miscarriages that then got pregnant very quickly after and had healthy pregnancies. So I actually was very hopeful initially. And then each month I kind of like lost more and more hope. And I think what finally pushed me to that fertility clinic was feeling like really like I don't think this is going to happen. And I like losing hope in it happening naturally.
Did you? Sorry, did you look for like mental health help during this time,
No,
like therapy or something to help you through?
no, I didn't. And in hindsight, I think it's probably something I should have prioritized. In my head, I think I was juggling a lot and I just didn't think that there would be like time or space, which is also naive of me to think to take care of my mental health. Like I was like between working, trying for a baby and being a mom. Like I was like, I just don't have time. But I think in hindsight, I should have invested that time in myself.
A lot of listeners and some people that we've had on the podcast have mentioned that it's it's really helpful, but it's hard to find fertility focused therapists.
Okay. And that was something I wondered, like how, because I've heard of friends who've had therapists and some of them have had great luck and found someone they like, but other times you're like cycling through a few. And I don't think I had it in me to like share my story multiple times
Multiple
in
times.
that
Yeah.
time. But I probably should have though, in hindsight.
No, it's okay. It's you did what you needed to get through that time, and that's all that really matters, I think.
Yeah. Thank you.
Is there anything else that you want to share with listeners? Any resources, anything that any advice, anything like that?
think I think I was surprised about how my husband and I handled the grief of everything that was going on so differently. I think the way I processed was I wanted to talk about next steps and like the data and the science behind the different treatments, and I also wanted to like share stories with my husband about other women who had similar stories that came out with like a happy ending. And he like would humor me and listen, but he never really like cared to engage with that stuff. Like he was like he didn't really have too many questions. He kind of just like threw himself into like parenting our toddler, our firstborn at that time. And I think I just thought like that was his way of grieving and processing was like, don't think about it and focus on what we have. But then actually we had friends who also struggled infertility, and the husband actually called my husband after everything happened and talked to him for a long time. And I remember my husband like came out of that conversation like feeling so like I think like touched that someone would think to reach out to him when like he's like you were the one that went through it, but someone thought to like talk to me and like see how I was doing. And I think in that moment I was like like completely overlooked like your grief and like the way you handle things.
Yeah, I wonder that often about how like your partner experiences it because it's not their body that it's happening to, but it is like they probably had plans too
Yeah.
in those 10 weeks or in those subsequent months. So that is really,
Yeah.
I think we need more support for the partners too. Like women definitely need support, but the partners, like you're right. I think they do get overlooked a little bit. It's
Yeah.
a lot of them don't talk. That's
I
why,
know.
like my own husband, he won't like he does not care to engage in conversations like that. Like I think it's because we as women handle grief differently,
Hmm.
or like I think I overthink and I talk a lot, and that's how I work through things. And my husband kind of shuts down and just thinks about it
Hmm.
like quietly to himself.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. We should have like a partner support group or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. Like I think it was nice that another male called my husband. Like I don't think he would have reacted the same way if it was a female going through it calling him. Like I think he would have felt maybe in a way they feel like it's not our body and it's not our struggle, but it is their like emotional struggle. And I think to like my husband's thing, he's like, it's also hard to watch someone you love go through something so hard, and you can't. There's like nothing you can really do besides like be supportive, but there's nothing you can do to physically take away any of their pain.
Yeah, that's so true.
But yeah, check in on your partners and like try to find different avenues to see if like something else like helps with them dealing with their grief.
Yeah, that's great advice. Thank you so much for sharing
Yeah,
that,
of
Priyanka.
course.
If you could go back in time to Priyanka that's going through all this heartbreak, all this pain,
Hmm.
as you now with your two babies in your arms, what would you say to her?
If I went back, I would probably like tell the version of me that was like entering this season, just like kind of like preparing myself, like you're going to have a lot of emotions, like you're going to have like fear and confusion, and you're going to feel lost and like maybe even ashamed that something you did like triggered this. And just like know that those feelings don't last forever, and the uncertainty doesn't last forever in my case. And I also to try to like protect the things that do bring you joy. If that is like, quality time with your son or your husband, like try to protect that during this time. I know this is also like so much easier for me to say like in hindsight in the situation that I'm in. I think I definitely undertake that. I definitely understand that this advice may not apply to everybody, but I think for me that would have helped.
Yeah. I think that is great advice. I just thought of one little thing. As I've been in the infertility community, I've noticed secondary infertility is, like you said, some people say, well, you already have your first, you already
Hmm.
have one,
Hmm.
which I understand. I completely understand. But I think it's really important to hear more secondary infertility stories because there's like another layer to that grief. Like
Hmm.
you see the age gap growing. You're like picturing how amazing your son could be as a big brother, or like how cute they would be together playing, things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. So you like grieve for yourself, but you also grieve for like your child. So it's almost
Yeah.
like a different grief.
Did your son ask for a sibling?
So no, he was little. Like he ended up being like we started trying like after he turned one. So we were initially going to have a baby like two under two. So he had no idea. It's funny now he asks for a baby, and I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can go through that again.
Yeah. My son, I have a daughter and a son, and my son is 4 and my daughter is 18 months. And my son's always like, can you get me another Benna? And I'm like, you already have a sister. And he's like, yeah, but I don't like her. She's too big. I can't hold her. And I'm like, that sounds like a you problem, not a her problem. You're tiny
Yeah.
because she's almost as big as him.
Oh my God, our
So
kids are the same. Almost, I have an almost 4-year-old and an almost 18-month old. And
really, that's so
yeah,
funny.
and
I was thinking that when you said COVID, and I was like, that sounds like us.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, but he's like, can I have another one? And I'm like, but you have one. You can play with the one you have.
Does he say he doesn't like them?
Um, he just says he wants a smaller one.
Yeah, yeah, I think they're getting older now, so they can sort of understand that, like, a little tiny
Yeah.
baby.
But I don't think
Yeah.
he realizes that that baby has a lot of needs. Like it's not just this little doll. I think he just wants like a doll that's alive. And that's
Yeah.
not the case. Like he has no idea.
Yeah. My sister-in-law and my brother had another baby. Like, they have 3 now, and they had one, like, in April, I think, and my son's like, "Why can't we go get one? They have 3 now. Why
Yeah.
can't we be 3?" And I'm like, "What's happening?"
Yeah. It's like you're turning into my mother.
Yeah. I'm like, "It doesn't oh, yeah, it's so funny. My mom will be like, 'No more kids.' And my son will be like, 'More kids.'"
It's so funny.
Well, Priyanka, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. Where can people reach out to you if they want to connect?
Yeah. So I'm actually I don't have like I don't have a super big social media presence, but you can definitely search me on Instagram. My name is Priyanka Sundar on there, or Facebook. My name is Priyanka Sundar. So yeah, they can like request a like or to message me on any of those.
Okay, sounds good. I will link your Instagram account down below and everything in the show notes page so everyone can read them if they want to. And thanks again so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks.